Hello everyone, welcome to the CodeChef Starters problems of round 100. It is a big round 100. There were 3 problems that weren't in Division 1 that were in the earlier divisions of 2, 3, and 4, and I'm going to be walking through those. So we first have air quality index. Okay, so let's see what is going on here. We got the light of the G20 summit, and the government's keeping the air quality index strictly below 100. And all you have to do is you're given the integer x, which is the AQI. If it's under 100, you output yes, otherwise you output no. So it's pretty simple. So just print yes if read int less than 100, else no. Can do this as a pretty basic shorthand. In this case with 50, we'll get yes. And if we put it to 100, we should get no. We can note that it says strictly below 100 just to make sure. Submit, and there we go. So there's our first problem completed. Now we go to trade surplus. Okay. So with trade surplus, we got 3 countries, A, B, and C. We're exporting goods worth some number of units and importing some number of units. And then same thing with B. A trade surplus is when the country exports more than it imports. And then find if C is in trade surplus. Okay, so let's read our values. We can have multiple test cases. So for I in range, read int. And then let's call this AO, A1, BO, and B1 for our values. So the AO and BO is the amount of exports. A1 and B1 is the number of imports. So let's say AO and BO are like 10 units of exports in total. So we'll do exports A0 plus B0, imports equals A1 plus B1. Now, what would happen if we had more, if these 2 countries were exporting more than they were importing? Then C would be the one that has to take in an additional amount of imports. Since like if you have 10 units of exports out there and then 5 units of those are being imported, then the other 5 units, there has to be a net 5 unit import to C. And vice versa with the other way. So if imports is greater than exports, that means more resources are going to A and B than they're giving out. So then C has to be on trade surplus. You can do print yes, else print no. Okay, we have a successful execution that matches with our test data. And we can actually use the same trick as last time, where we can do all of this in a single line. Print yes if imports here. Else no. Just run this again just to make sure it still works. Submit. And there we go, we have a correct problem. So now we can finally move to the last problem of this tutorial. We got chocolate distribution. So we're going to have at least 4 chocolates. One jar, at least one of them has to have an odd number of chocolates. 2 jars have the same number of chocolates, and each jar has at least 1 chocolate. Okay. And we can note that a valid distribution always exists. We have multiple test cases again. So, when a valid distribution exists, that's usually a sign that we have some sort of idea what can happen. So one thing that could happen, let's consider the two jars that have the same number of chocolates. So in a sense we can write these jars as the number of chocolates being as jars containing X, X, and Y chocolates. If X is odd, then Y can be anything as long as it's at least 1. Since then we have those two jars containing an odd number of chocolates satisfying our first condition. Otherwise, X must be even. So ideally here, it would make sense to try and have it would make sense to try and have X be odd. Now the easiest case is we just set X to 1, and this will always work because then Y will, because there's at least there's 4 chocolates in total, so the last jar will have at least 1 chocolate every time. So in our words, what we can just do is print 1, 1, and n-2. If I am reading this correctly. 1 jar has an odd number of chocolates, yes. 2 jars have the same number of chocolates. That's also always going to be yes, because n-2 has to be at least 2 due to this constraint. Every jar has at least 1 chocolate. Also yes. And we can just submit. Alright, and that's pretty much it. So that was all the training practice problems from CodeChef Starters 100. My attempts on the Division 1 problems was earlier today. Yeah, that attempt, it was something. It was something, and assuming that I get the second Division 1 problem later, I might also post a video on that problem, but that's going to be it. I'll be back here next Wednesday. Next Wednesday is going to be Starters 101. And yeah, that's pretty much it. See you then.